what he saw in America was a lot of separate groups, and that's the problem, because the gospel, when it came, raised individuals up. That's what ticked the British off, was we were suddenly all individuals. We had been subjects and groups before. He saw that. He brought the individual message, and that's why the Declaration and Constitution don't deal with groups, they deal with individuals. That's what ticked the British off. And so as Whitefield preaches, what he did was elevate people individually where they were, brought them out. He's the first one to really start elevating blacks in America in a very serious way. That's where the abolition movement got started, was the elevation of the individual. And that's why collective salvation has always been wrong from the American viewpoint, because that biblical, that's what you had in France. I mean, look at the mottos of France. Brotherhood. No, we're individuals over here. They're groups over there. We don't have groups. We have individuals. And that's why every man is created with inalienable rights. That came from the pulpit. That's in the Constitution Declaration because of that.
But let me go there then. When we come back, I want to go there to what are the individual rights, and how do you guys as preachers preach that from the pulpit and turn it without turning it into politics? Back in a second. David Martin is joining me on stage tonight at the Kennedy Center. We'll be streaming it live on the Insider Extreme. All the details are available at glennbeck.com. There are tickets for free. People have been waiting outside for the tickets, but there's some other people that are in the audience that I'll only announce there at the Kennedy Center, and we haven't made any press passes available. Oh, darn, did we forget? And I just said to David, I said, geez, are you ready? And he said, it's too late for that question now, Jack. Our panel is back. David Barton, Pastor C.L. Jackson, Richard Lee, and Tom Mullins. And Tom, let me go to you. We were just talking about Whitefield, and Whitefield came over here around 1740 and started teaching about individual power, and that's what started to change America and really hack the British off. So what is it the rights of individuals that doesn't turn into politics that pastors should be teaching, and why?
It's at the very core of the teaching of Christ when he came to reveal to us a personal God and the relationship that we could have with him. And it's really interesting because not only did God name all the stars, the Bible teaches us, but he knows us by name. And we have been called by name. We have been called as individuals to be a part of that. One of the things I just finished, Glenn, in our July 4th celebration was a celebration of this truth that had burned so deep into the hearts of our founders, and helping our people understand the founding principles of this truth, that we were created with these liberties that are gifts from God. As Thomas Jefferson said, the only security for our liberty today is when we understand that our liberties are a gift from God. And so teaching our people these principles, we're trying to equip our kids to understand, and even take it with them into the schools for their conversations, that these
That's
liberties
really
and gifts that we have,
I mean, it's in schools,
from God.
In schools, it's really...
Yeah.
I mean, we're toast in schools. Yeah. And a lot of preachers and pastors and rabbis, you name it, they are afraid to say anything. They're afraid to say anything.
They have been. That's changing. What I've seen in the last 2 to 3 years is more backbone out of clergy than I've seen in my lifetime. There is actually now a major move against the IRS. The IRS has never been sued for that silly little regulation they have that won't allow free speech inside the four walls of a church. Free speech anywhere else. Any union gets it, but not any church. They're both nonprofit organizations. Why does one get it? So there's finally a pushback, and this year on what was called, or what is called Pulpit Freedom Sunday, you'll have several hundred preachers standing up and saying, IRS, come after me. I dare you. Come get me. So there's a lot of... It happens started it 3 years ago, because we figured out nobody's ever sued the IRS over this code. We specifically, 3 years ago, had 31 guys who stood up in the pulpit, crossed the line. We sent the tapes to the IRS, said, please come after them. We got lawsuits prepared. We want you after them. IRS refused to do it. So the next year, since they wouldn't go...
Get into news.
Oh, it's great. Next year, they wouldn't take those 31, so we went to 86 for next year. And this time, it's hundreds and hundreds of guys.
When is it?
It's, I think, September the 26th.
Okay. We get past 828. You've got to come back next week.
Can do.
Because we have to talk about that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, America. Oh, tell your preachers and your pastors and your priests and your rabbis about this. Oh, yeah, please. You have hundreds?
Yep.
Well, thousands.
And it'll keep going because
Thousands.
IRS doesn't want to go after us because they know they'll lose in court. And if they lose in court, then you have 350,000 preachers instead of a few hundred saying something.
Okay, so you just got back from Cambridge, where you were doing some study.
Yeah, not Cambridge, Oxford.
Or Oxford,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Where Oxford is where Whitefield actually had his experience that went, oh, wait a minute, it's not collective here, it's personal.
Yeah, I'm actually doing my thesis for my PhD on the Great Awakening and its influence on the Revolution.
Are we going through awakening now?
Yes, that's exactly
What are the
you're doing.
signs of it?
Well, let me give you some examples. When Whitefield, by the way, Whitefield came preaching that salvation was individual. He did because he was a part of a collective salvation idea there at Oxford in a holy club, but he had an experience right outside of Christ Church College there where he gave his life to Christ, and he came preaching that individual salvation.
He couldn't understand how people weren't like weepy. He's like, don't you feel weepy inside? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
No, that's weird.
Yeah, well, that's because he didn't, they evidently didn't have the same experience
Exactly
he had.
right.
But basically, what we see, Glenn, is David could elaborate on this even more, but what we see is a movement. Let me give you an example. Before Whitefield, there was no unity in the colonies. They were all doing their own thing. But they began to work together. They began to cross state lines to go to his revivals, his meetings, his preachings, and the colonies began to get together. Then out of that, they were in a bondage in religion in America. The colonists were, because they were in dead, dry, lifeless churches. But a fire started, and the fire started outside the churches, meaning that people began to have home Bible studies and these type things. Well, what did that do? That gave them the spirit of liberty. They wanted liberty. And that went for 40 years until the Revolution. So actually the American Revolution, in my personal opinion, started in 1735, where Edwards' first sermons, and went to 40, where Whitefield came, 17 trips, he came and really started it.
It's in a way, that's the religious part of it, and I think it started differently here. We had, at this time, I think we had a historic awakening, a history awakening, where people were like, you know what, I'm not going to the history professor anymore because you guys aren't telling me the truth.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And that's, am I mistaken? That's where it happened. And so people are taking history on themselves, and I think that, look, I'm the laziest guy in the world. I ain't getting up on Sunday because I want to get up. It's my only day, and then I got to put a suit on and go to church. Are you kidding me? That's the last thing I want to do. But if I can make up my own rules, if nothing matters, I don't need you guys. You know what I mean? If nothing matters, and that's what our churches have become. A lot of them, nothing matters. Everything is, well, just whatever feels good. Well, that's not true, is it? I mean, because if that is, I'm putting sweatpants back on Sunday morning.
But Glenn, there is a remnant, as David said. There's a remnant of the church that are calling the people back.
That's right.
To these core fundamentals of our faith and the core fundamentals and values of our nation. And we need to be the voices again. I mean, I don't preach in a black robe, but I'm ready to put one back on. If I can be a part of helping get the Black Robe Regiment, the Black Robe Patriots that Richard and I were talking about, activated again, where we lift up our voice. And we're simply lifting up the voice of the core values of our Heavenly Father that was given through His divine word, that inspired our founding fathers, that created a foundation for this great nation that we live in. So let's go.
I will tell you this. I wish there was somebody who had thought of organizing a Black Robe Brigade or something like that, and then like introduced a few of them someplace special. Oh well, we'll have to see. Back in a minute. David Barton, president and founder of Wall Builders. He is also the author of Setting the Record Straight, American History in Black and White. C.L. Jackson, senior pastor of Pleasant Grove Missionary Baptist Church, who I You have to hear his story in a minute. This guy sacrificed so much. Richard Lee, senior pastor of the First Redeemer Church, and Tom Mullen, senior pastor of the Christ Fellowship Church. I will tell you that we had a rabbi who was going to join us. Unfortunately, his plane is coming in too late. He will be on stage tonight at the Kennedy Center, being joined with some other gentlemen. Real quick, because I want to go to CL on something, but David, give me. You said you had a couple of points historically to show that we are in a period of awakening.
I think it's easy to prove. Now, one thing about awakenings is they span decades. You don't have weekend revivals. We only do that at church. That's not real. That doesn't happen. A great awakening goes from 1735 to 1770. I mean, you get 35 years in there. So one thing that happens is during a revival, during a national awakening, you all of a sudden get interested in your history again. It's like Josiah the temple. They pull out the scroll. They say, "You mean we used to be like that?" And suddenly everybody. That's right. Malachi 3:6. Their heart goes back to the previous generations, and lo and behold, you start doing history, and man, look at the ratings on your history shows are through the roof. That's where people are. That's a sign. Second sign is if you look at the at every revival that's happened scripturally or historically, because it spans decades, it's transgenerational. Now, the cool thing about the great preachers in the First Great Awakening, you had Samuel Davies, the greatest orator in American history, greatest pulpit preacher. You got Jonathan Edwards, you got George Whitefield, you got Gilbert Tennant, you got a bunch of these guys, you got Samuel Cooper. They're all great preachers. What's really cool is there was a young kid that always ran around with this Samuel Davies guy, this Davies' greatest orator. The kid who ran around with him was a little guy named Patrick Henry. And there was a kid running around with the Reverend Dr. Samuel Cooper named John Adams. And there was a kid running around with the Reverend Gilbert Tennant named Benjamin Rush. And you know, you look at all these guys, they produced a generation that changed the whole scope. Now I look at where we are today, and just on polling, from a pro-life position, 51% of America supports life. Yeah, but you know what? Among the next generation, 72% of them support life. Now, where did they get more pro-life than anybody that teaches them? That's a revival. That's a restoration. There's something coming.
Seal, you said a minute ago, you said you can't have, you can't restore until you rescue. What do you mean?
Sure. I told you the other morning when you and I was talking, and I called you Jehoshaphat.
I just heard the fat part, and I thought that was it. I'm like, what is that? Pastor, that's not right.
This is true. Jehoshaphat became a weakling, and that's where God showed you your weakling through your experience. His son married Jezebel's daughter, so it gave him a tie now with Ahab and with some of the other nation. Now, Israel or Judah in his day was free from that. But he mixed himself up with them because he became political minded, a politician. He went back into darkness.
No, not a politician. Who saw that one coming?
But in doing this, they in turn turned on him because darkness can't push light. Pastor would tell you light push darkness. They came to take him out. Judah, this small little country, they done cut loose from Israel. Jehoshaphat knew this, but couldn't do nothing about it because of his weaknesses. So what he does, I don't have much time.
No, you have. You're good.
But what he did, set himself before God. You know, we talked about word. The word said he set. Then the next word, he sought, but to seek God's face. Then he proclaimed to the audience. That's what you're doing. Now, when you say proclaim, it's a compound word. Pro means to call. Am I right, theologian? And to cry. And that's Israel. At the Wailing Wall, I explained that to you.
I got the crying down.
The Donor Rock.
Yeah,
I got the crying down. The fat and the crying. I'm in.
Hey. But listen, and then I'm gonna stop.
All right.
That's pro. Call, cry. But claim, C-L-A-I, claim means to to become, now when I said that, my mind started trying to flip, Satan don't want me to say that, but it means to be brought back, to be rescued. That's what the word she was using me. Claim me together. That's what the word I'm looking for.